Good morning. Welcome back to another season of The Guide Life. I'm Toby Cavalli, hosting the show this morning, waiting on my guest, just like we do every morning with our guide group, Leisure Outdoor Adventures. What I'm doing this morning is I'm sitting in the boat waiting for my special guest to show up. It's going to be a fun show. We're going to be right here on Leech Lake. Leech Lake is the home of LOA. It's our home address. 13 years ago we started our guide service, Jeff Anderson and myself, right here on Leech Lake. And why Leech Lake? One, because we grew up in Bemidji, Minnesota, just up the road. Northern boys for sure. We enjoy the waters up here, the Cass Lakes, the Winnies, the Leech Lake, the areas that we guide on today. Leech Lake is a very special lake. It's 112,000 acres, surrounded by the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe's reservation, the Leech Lake Indian Reservation. Along with that, it's surrounded by the Chippewa National Forest. There's a lot of history here. It's a sportsman's, it's an outdoors enthusiast's heaven per se, and it's centered right around Walker, Minnesota. Walker's a town of about 1,000 people. It's pretty small for 8 months of the year, but during the summer it's a boom. And what starts that? Minnesota fishing opener. Here we are today. The fishing opener just happened this past weekend. We got through it. My guests today in the boat, each of our guides. We're out here on Leech Lake and around our guide area, enjoying the 75th fishing opener. 1948. That was the first fishing opener here in Minnesota officially. It's the 15th of every May, right around that weekend, Mother's Day weekend. And it's a kickoff to the summer season. So Walker goes from 1,000 people up to 10,000 people because of all the resorts. We are partnered up with some great resorts, but there's tons of them here on Leech Lake. And why Leech Lake? Because I said it's a sportsman's paradise. Walleye fishing is typically what we think about on the fishing opener. And Leech Lake is a perfect walleye spawning habitat. It's 112,000 acres. It's got shallow rocks. It's got windswept points. It's got sand. It's got sandgrass. And that 112,000 acres of Leech Lake, the walleye spread out. And a lot of lakes fish really small during the year. Leech Lake during opener fishes really big because there's so much shoreline. You really got to key in onto those windswept points and check that warmer water area where those spots are. And that's where the fishing is really good. But we'll find out how the boys did. That's a little history, a little background on Leech Lake. It's a sportsman's paradise. We love it. Leisure Outdoor Adventures set our camp here 13 years ago, and we've been here ever since. It's our favorite lake in the world. So let's see who's jumping in the boat today. I got a secret. I got a tournament coming up, and I kind of handpicked the 3 best hottest tournament anglers I can find. They're gonna come in, and we're kind of hosting the show here, and I've told them to come on in and promote your sponsors and all that fancy stuff. But really, I'm just looking for some intel, and I'm gonna share it with you guys. So we'll meet them, we'll go catch some fish, and maybe you and I will learn a little bit about Leech Lake. Well, boys, thanks for joining us. This is our first Guide Life show of the year. The topic is opener. So Monday, it's right after fishing opener. Every one of you got on a lake. Some of you here, some Winnie, Gull Lake. How was your opener, Murph?
It was a lot of fun. It was great weather, perfect weather, really. We had overcast, wind, and the fish were biting.
And you fished where?
On Winnie. Well, I started out in Cutfoot, and then I worked out to Winnie, but fish, it was awesome fish.
Chuckles, what'd you do?
We opened out here. I don't know how they got wind on Winnie because we didn't have any wind out here on Leech Lake.
Whatever.
It's way over there though. It's at least 30 miles away.
Yeah. It was a little tough. We really had to work for our fish. We actually took a break Saturday afternoon and fished crappies for about 3 hours.
Nice.
And put a few of those in the live well and came back, and the bite picked up a little bit in the evening on Saturday. And then yesterday we were back out. Again, no wind, bright bluebird skies. Fish are still shallow, so they're a little bit spooky. We put some fish in the box. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't fantastic, I would say.
Nice.
Yep.
Jeremiah, did you get a chance to get out?
We went out, Gull Lake, we stayed local, took the boys out. once I got out of bed at about 11 o'clock. So,
8th grader, 5th grader, yeah, I get it.
just in time for that prime time bite. So we kept it local and ran to gull. Marked a lot of fish. You know, some could have been suckers, but a lot of them were walleyes, I think. So it was a tough bite there. We didn't fish walleyes very long. Then we did some crappie stuff. Boys caught a bunch of crappies and some nice largemouth and a couple of bluegills. So that's mostly what we did.
And still played 3 baseball games in between all that
Sunday.
stuff.
Yeah, with a black eye.
Yeah.
So I got the boys here. I got Murph, I got Jeremiah, and I got Chuck on Leech in the boat. And these guys are really good sticks. They're modest. They're not going to say anything. But this guy right here won a tournament on Lake Bemidji just a few years ago. Chuck on Leech won for the 2nd time last year the Leech Lake Walleye tournament. Guy obviously is a stick. He's done very well in tournaments, AIM tournament, local tournaments. Knows the lake like the back of his hand. And the way we're going to fish today, these guys all know what they're doing. Jeremiah last year won the Walleye Dan tournament on Gull Lake with his partner and kind of mopped up on that. So we got 3 hot sticks here to learn from, and I'm excited to take part in that and ask lots of questions and see if we can figure out Leech Lake on probably semi-tough conditions.
Yep.
Let's get them, boys.
That's it in a nutshell.
Guiding, while to some people on the outside it might seem like a glamorous thing, it's a lot of work.
But every time somebody steps into my boat for a guide trip, it's their trip. This is their trip, and
spending the day on the water with people, it's really a dream come true.
It's just truly special experience. Setting the hook, netting the fish, high-fiving people, and that's truly the passion.
What drives me is fishing different species and making memories with people. It's a phenomenal thing.
And that's what keeps me coming back. That's what fuels my fire for guiding.
Every day is something new, and seeing the smiles on people's faces when they catch that personal best makes it all worthwhile.
And I love watching kids get addicted to fishing.
We are a family. Between all of us, we spend countless hours on the water. And at the end of the day, it's about making sure that the people that were in your boat learned something and enjoyed that experience and made some memories along the way.
31 incher, baby! Woo, woo, woo!
Chris, you're up. Am I gonna get this one, Nick?
Get him. There you go.
Beautiful fish.
Oh boy. One of my faves.
A little nicer one.
There we go, buddy.
Away. What a beautiful Leech Lake muskie, those spots. It's not a secret.
Nice fish, buddy.
Thanks.
That's a good one.
Oh, there we go.
there we go. First nice fish of the day. On top of these fish, like you said.
Here comes on.
That is how you catch a Leech Lake, isn't it?
That's awesome. We wanted to go catch a big one.
That's big.
Yeah. 37. 8 minutes to go. Woo!
The Guide Life with Leisure Outdoor Adventures is brought to you by these great partners.
See how he pokes them in? Is it a walleye?
Yep.
In a net? Oh no! That was really cool.
Nice fish.
Nice eaters. Anybody need any fish today, or can we just throw them back?
Up to you guys.
I don't need any.
Chucky poo?
Nice job, Murph. So I noticed with that fish,
Nice Leech
like,
Laker.
you were on point. Like I thought maybe you had a bite. Chuck mentioned that. Oh, here comes Murph. And I noticed you were feeling it. You were kind of jigging it. You dropped your rod, and like maybe the fish dropped it. I don't know. But what did you do there to coax that one?
I like to hold them, and then sometimes I'll pop it
This
just to
one?
make it get that one more, to make it give you that second hit, just so you don't choke. So you don't choke.
Does it help?
But every once in a while I do choke.
Does it help to talk to him?
Sometimes I talk to him.
No, I saw that, and did it drop it once or twice too?
It dropped it.
It dropped it?
So one thing I like to do is if I'm jigging, all of a sudden you feel it drop, don't just like kind of like try to get it to feel again. Just drop your tip, let that jig just lay on the bottom, and I ain't kidding, 90% of the time they'll pick that thing back up, because if they first initially hit it and all of a sudden they drop it, but all of a sudden that minnow's laying there, oh, I crippled it. This will be even easier.
Sure.
Come there and grab it, and then he's on.
They're predators, right? So
There's another one. Possible.
Yep. Perfect. Something like that.
Ooh.
Gator?
No, it's eye.
Smallmouth.
Another nice eater. So something like that, just drop the tip and give it a jig and catch another one, huh?
It was that quick. Another one.
Good job.
Let's do it again.
Who's gonna top that? Nicely done.
Getting back to what Murph was talking about as far as dropping the jig and letting that jig lay flat on the bottom to kind of entice them back into picking up that extra, after they drop it, they've already had a taste, now they want to come back, they wounded it, they've killed it. Just like this is a long shank jig here, and you can get into a couple different ways to rig them so they can lay flat on the bottom, versus a stand-up jig where the weight of that jig heads down but the minnow stays off the bottom. This is a long shank here, so like typically what I'll do with a long shank is I'll go in the mouth, out the gill, thread that thing all the way on, and then kind of through the neck area there. So you've got that longer shank of the hook. If a fish has, this much of it, they're gonna get that hook set, versus a traditional, just a Northland bubblegum jig, where you typically either lip hook it through the lips to get that extra action. What I like to do is go in the mouth and out the top of the head to get that shank just a little bit further back. Now these jigs are gonna lay typically flat on the bottom. They're gonna lay like that, versus a stand-up jig, which, got one here, the weight of that jig is all towards the head, or on the front of the head. So that jig's naturally gonna fall down, and it's gonna give that just a little different profile when it's laying on the bottom. More of that direction there. Just different stuff. Pick it up a day like today, it might be a difference of Murph's got a regular jig on, he's caught 3-4 fish already. Jeremiah's got a long shank. I think Toby and I just have a standard bubblegum 1/8 ounce. Let the fish tell you what they prefer. So we'll let Murph catch a couple more before we all switch though. Right? Okay.
So each of these guys are obviously experienced anglers, and we just saw Murph with a little tip on jigging, and undoubtedly each of these guys are phenomenal anglers and professionals, true professionals. So Murph, tell me about your success in tournaments. A couple years ago, you and Richie Poo won that tournament up in Bemidji. Maybe just, without giving too many secrets, just talk about what that meant to you and kind of how you did it that day, and what you did kind of on a clear lake like Bemidji to separate yourself from the rest of the anglers.
Well, obviously, if winning a tournament, it's awesome, because there's a lot of good competitors out there, a lot of good fishermen, especially on Lake Bemidji there. You got some good sticks, and basically we did jigging. Lake Bemidji, it's clearing up, so we're doing a lot like what we're doing right now is staying away from them, pitching to them, and catching them that way. We did do some rigging. We caught them a couple different ways, but yeah, it's really fun when it happens, because wins don't come all the time, so you got to be thankful that you do get to win one every once in a while.
So Murph, when you fished in that tournament, when you win a tournament, you kind of know, when you're when you have a chance at it. So when in that tournament, Murph, did you think you had it?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, that's pretty much the only thing I do now anymore as a competitor is fishing, And I don't know, I think tournament alone is, a lot of people put, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. I mean, a lot of people put more pressure on themselves than normal. I think as an athlete, you're used to being under pressure situations and not panicking, hitting the panic button. A lot of guys, they'll hit the panic button, they'll just run all around the lake. You've never done that before, have you, Chuck? What about you, Tobe? Have you ever done it?
Nope, I don't burn much gas.
Yeah, that's not good. When you start hitting the panic button, you're running around the lake like you're crazy. It's not good. You might as well just go hang her up.
Well, as we can see here, Murph excels at shallow water fishing. He grew up fishing Winnie and jigging a lot on Leech Lake and Winnie. And when it comes to shallow water fishing and doing like what we're doing here this morning, as you can see, he's really tough to beat. You get a lot of confidence in it. He's able to read the lake with his graphs, his electronics, find the bait, find the fish location presentation. Murph excels at it all, and he's really, really tough on a shallow water bite when it comes to tournaments.
Fish where the fish are. That part ain't rocket science. In terms of walleye production, Leech Lake is best. Trappers Landing Lodge on the south shore of Leech Lake has the finest lodging on the entire lake. With renowned angling expert Josh Bullivant managing the property, Trappers Landing is the place to be, opening weekend and all season long. Fish where the fish are. Stay at Trappers. Call for reservations 218-836-2500.
Stop into Ray's Sport and Marine today to check out our remaining 2022 in-stock inventory or place your 2023 order with guaranteed price lock until September 1st. After September 1st, prices are subject to change, so now is the time to reserve your new boat. From tillers to side consoles and full windshield models, we sell them all. Our sales and service team is here to help you get on the water. Ray Sport and Marine, 896 Northeast 1st Street, Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Well, switch locations. Now we're fishing a little bit deeper water, sand flat, and a spot where Chuck fished this weekend, and we just drove by and picked him up on side imaging. We're going to circle back downwind, and we'll kind of do the same deal. We'll try to stay off these fish. It's not super wavy here. We'll try to get 40, 50 feet away from them and start by pitching jigs to them first and see if we can get a few, and if not, maybe try to change tactics. But jigging a minnow, sand flat, working into the wind. See if we can use forward-facing sonar to catch a fish or two, get hooked. Second spot, I think it's I'm gonna say Chuck's gonna catch the first walleye here. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know
Let's
if
see
I
it.
put a minnow on it.
You got enough shiner scales on that rod?
Did you just tell Murph to cast over there while you...
I see him.
Yarr! Nicely done.
Nice one.
There you go, Mr. Murphy. A nice fish.
Murph, can you swim?
Let me get this bobber out of the way.
Someone grab me a minnow.
Welcome to the Murph Show. Oh, a drop shot and a shiner.
Did you give me one? Oh,
So Chuck, where do you typically think on an average year a guy should start, or where are the fish typically at, and what's the presentation around opener?
well, we've kind of had a abnormal spring, another late ice out, so traditionally
Right under the boat.
the fish are coming off their spawning areas, and now they're starting to set up on their first set of break lines, kind of not too far from where they spawn. But this year they're still close to their spawning areas, and actually I think they are still spawning. We just had ice out. We just had ice out here not even a week ago, and then followed up. We kind of went from winter straight into summer. So
another question around opener, Chuck, would be, where are the fish coming from? Where do they spawn typically on Leech Lake?
typically, years past, it's been rock rubble areas on the south end of the lake, or the muddier areas on the northwest side of the lake. Walker Narrows, the narrows between Bear Island and Chippewa Lodge, anywhere there's moving water. We've had a lot of fish spawning in the narrows the last few years, which isn't really your typical spawning area. It's shallow water, mud, a little vegetation, but it's the warmest water in the system. I don't know if that's due to water clarity, bait, but things have changed a little bit as far as actual spawning locations over the last few years. We got a Walter. Nice one.
We need a net?
Yeah.
Nice one, Jeremiah. Looks like you had a little different tactic going on there. Little terminal tackle going on. It wasn't a jig and a shiner. We talked earlier about changing tactics, and as technology changes, you see a lot of people in bass fishing drop shotting. Is that what you got going on? Why don't you tell us about that?
I just switched over to a drop shot. Pretty simple. 3/8 ounce drop shot weight, plain hook. Just putting the hook through the lip of the shiner right here. Pitch into the fish. So a little bit different. I'm just kind of letting it sit right in front of the fish, a little bit off the bottom, but they can't resist it.
How does that presentation, is it a live minnow? Are you killing the minnow? When you're hooking it in the lip like that? What are your thoughts? And are you working it, or are you just dragging it?
Just kind of shaking it. The minnow's alive, so I can feel the minnow actually fluttering when it's down there. So right now, just using a live minnow. Not so concerned about it being dead. If that happens, I can still shake it, but really just putting it in front of the fish and letting it sit for a little bit, and then they'll bite it. Plain and simple.
Talk a little bit about your main line. Is that braid? What do you got?
So on here I have Suffix 832 6-pound test, and then attached to that I have fluorocarbon, just a 6-pound test fluoro. So with that drop shot, you can really feel the bite well with the non-stretch of the fluoro, and then also the braid. But deadly combo all year.
Why?
Yeah.
Need a net? Good one?
Decent.
Decent. Oh, that's clear. That's a nice looking fish, Chuckles.
It only took me 4 hours.
Oh, it's been a leech out.
You're not going to loop them?
That's a nice one. That boy Chuck.
Nice work, Chuckles.
That one took it out.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, those are nice fish.
Got a couple of those cold water sores on him. Right there. Yeah. Yeah. Or some penicillin.
What was that one doing? We're not keeping, Chuck.
That's right. That one was not seen on live sonar. That was a blind squirrel fish right there.
So sometimes you can just go fishing?
Sometimes.
So I was wondering, you know, if we were just drifting the shoreline back and forth, making runs, if we'd have as many, if not more fish on the boat, if we were staggered, you know, and just dragging our jigs. You know, the average guy comes up to Leech Lake, you know, how would we fish this, you know? Not everybody has forward-facing sonar, so for the viewers or people wondering, what kind of speed do you drift at, and how would you go about this if you didn't have forward-facing sonar, Chuck?
In this depth with the water clarity, I mean, how we used to do it was put your trolling motor in gear at the slowest speed, cast your jig as far as you can behind the boat, and cover ground.
Yep.
Just so that you've got that jig away from the boat. Or you can make long casts and fan cast an area where you think there's fish. See them on side imaging, but with how fast they move around, I mean, we're constantly, you catch one and the school blows up and you chase them around. I mean, we've probably been on 8 different schools of fish and caught 3 or 4. You catch one, miss one, spook them, and just honestly keep chasing them around.
It kind of makes sense when you think back, you know, in the day when you were doing that, right? And you can watch them now in forward-facing sonar. Like, they don't stay put on sand flats. They have a tendency to move, right? So you go back and redo your drift, and maybe you catch them 40 yards up the drift next time, and they move back and forth. So covering ground, trolling, like you said, or just drift fishing, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I've seen is they're pretty stationary until one of 3 things happen. You catch one out of the school, you do something they don't like by getting too close to them, or, I mean, you hook one and bring it halfway to the boat. A lot of times we'll see, people think really everyone's kind of seen the smallies chase each other, but I've seen walleyes do it too, where you hook a fish out of the school and you can literally watch the rest of the school will chase that fish, and by the time they get 20 feet from the boat, they disappear and scatter, and then it's just chasing them down again.
So Chuck, you've had the last couple of years of your life fishing a lot of tournaments, and you and your partner Randy have had a lot of success. Talk about Leech Lake, and not 1 but 2 wins for you on Leech Lake. What they mean to you, like Murph. You know, what do they mean to you as an angler, obviously, and kind of what was the tactic for you? That's a couple of weeks down the road, not spots, of course, but just kind of what's the tactic that time of year, you know, as far as presentations, but specifically dive into that tournament, the Leech Lake Walleye Tournament, one or both of them, and just how much that means to you as a tournament angler.
Yeah, I mean, anyone will tell you some of the hardest tournaments are on your quote-unquote home water, and how easy it is to overthink things. Murph was talking earlier about you can kind of get in your own mind, and it's a big lake. You can spend a lot of time driving, or you can spend a lot of time fishing. And my first few years fishing tournaments, we spent a lot of time driving. And what we learned from that is that's a good way to lose. When you're driving, that means your plan's pretty much already out the window. So you're going on a prayer, which usually never works. A lot of it's just staying focused no matter what happens. Like last year when we were talking about, you know, forgetting the leeches or killing your minnows or, you know, things like that. We were leading the tournament after day 1, and day 2 I walked out to my garage before takeoff and walked out to my back trolling motor literally on fire. Not sure how it happened, but thankfully I had a spare trolling motor, and we managed to pull the old one off while it was on fire and rig a new one. But I told Randy on the way there, I said, well, you know how this story ends. It's usually something, you got to overcome something almost catastrophic, and the rest has to go perfect, which almost never happens. So in order to get that win last year was a pretty huge deal, and it came right down to the wire. Because it was an app-based tournament, you can see the results, but they shut the results off at 1 o'clock, and the weigh-in isn't until 3. So we were pretty confident we'd be in the top 2 or 3, but not 100%. So you never know until everything's officially tallied up. But it's a pretty nice moment to have on your home water, to come away with a victory out of 170 some boats.
We're out here today and we've got this Maluna unhinged cooler, made in the USA, made right here in Minnesota, and this thing is absolutely amazing. Last thing we want to worry about in the morning is making sure that we have enough ice in the boat. We know that when we fill up our Maluna on the start of the week, that towards the end of the week, we're still going to have cold ice inside of there. Oversized handles, they're lightweight, easy to haul around, plenty of room, and these things are top notch. You want a cooler that'll keep ice for several days on end, these Maluna unhinged are where it's at.
Reed's Family Outdoor Outfitters is the #1 ice fishing headquarters. We have everything you need, from today's firearms to the latest fishing electronics and the hottest footwear and outdoor apparel. We only carry the best brands at the best prices. Have a question? No problem. We have the most knowledgeable team in the business, ready to answer your call personally 7 days a week. Whether you're visiting us in Walker, Minnesota, or touching your screen, with our state-of-the-art distribution center, we can get you gear when you need it fast. Cast or blast, Reed's has the best service, best advice, and best price, guaranteed.
Just a eater. Nice little eater. Oh, yes. Didn't get that one to come off. Finally had a bite a little while ago and it came right off, but right in the beak. Nice little eater if we were keeping. We've had a nice little keeper fest today so far. We're actually came out here to catch a bigger one. We're out on the rocks now. We transitioned. One thing that we've learned that early in the year, well, anytime during the year, but when the water's cold, the rocks, the shallow rocks, have a tendency to heat up. So we moved out here to maybe find some bigger fish. And lo and behold, we caught one, but not a big one yet. So it's nice to be on the board, join the club.
Yeah, nice.
Just pitching jig still, pitching a shiner. I got a stand-up jig. That one was actually laying on the bottom. Kind of like Chuck's fish. I did not see that fish. Just laying on the bottom by some big boulders. Bright sun. I think the fish was on the shady side, cooling off, just like Chuck's doing back there. And drag it through there and boom, got one. That was fun. Get him. Good one. Nice fish. That's an over 20 chuckles. Get your eyes checked.
No, I was going to knock it off.
Party's in the front. Another nice fish, chuckles. Something different. Get him out farther. Pretty aggressive jig. He choked it. Just a nice little 17-incher maybe. Plump, fat. That's what opener's all about right there. Well, boys, we made her back safe and sound. Didn't break anything. Maybe a couple of jigs we lost to some toothy critters, but overall, pretty good day. We're blessed to have these three guys, Chuck, Jeremiah, Murph, in the boat, showing off what they do best, and that's jigging shallow and universal and versatile tactics for Jeremiah, and Chuck just does it all. Chuck on Leech. So we got out there on Leech Lake today, and opening weekend again. We're kind of figuring out what the fish are doing still. It's our third day on the water, obviously. Chuck starts guiding and Murph starts guiding this week, right?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So it's good to be out here on the water, and found the fish where they're supposed to be, and they're starting to show up where they're going to be. So that's good for guiding, right?
Yeah, it's kind of what we found there this afternoon. Those fish were starting to pile up a little more. It had been smaller groups of 2s and 3s that we kind of had to chase around, but the fish are slowly transitioning into what they normally do this time of year. So it was, with not much wind in the high skies, I don't know, I thought we did pretty good today.
Yeah, we caught enough fish.
Yeah, it was good. It was, can't expect for to bang them dead every day, but we still caught fish. I mean, we had fun.
You know, this forward-facing sonar stuff is a game changer on days like this. You know, it's tough, it's flat, calm. We were around fish. I mean, we didn't stop. We trusted our electronics, and we were around fish all day. You know, the percentage that actually bit is pretty small compared to what we were targeting, but pretty good day. Like you said, you catch a dozen fish or whatever we caught, and you're going to have happy customers. What do you think the big fish are doing? Because we didn't find one.
I think they're still finishing spawn, personally.
Still up shallow, really shallow.
Yeah.
It'll be another week or so before they start showing up regular.
Jeremiah, what do you think?
I agree.
You know, talk about versatility a little bit. You know, something that you're a multi-species angler, and versatility. You know, we caught fish different ways today, so just talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think you talked about the forward-facing sonar, and you see, you know, we'd find groups of 4 or 5 fish, and you kind of see how they react. So, you know, if one technique's not working, there's probably another way that they'll bite. You know, so I think, you know, if you want to sit in that group of fish for a little bit and try a couple of different things, if one thing's not working, you know, you can kind of figure out a pattern over time that way too. So it's good to have rods rigged for a little bit of everything, I think.
Let the fish tell you what they want.
Yep.
I mean, you look around today, we were in groups of boats at different times. I don't know that I saw another fish caught.
A couple pike here and there, maybe, but yeah.
It's the way the fish are reacting to things right now. You've got to learn to adapt, and that helped us a lot today.
Yeah, Leech Lake has always been known for wind-swept wind. You know, the bite's better when you have wind, and when there is no wind, it can be tough. You know, it seems like different times of the year, maybe calm conditions are maybe a little bit better if you're bobber fishing rocks or whatever. You know, when the mayflies start to hatch here in 2-3 weeks, when they start getting those outer edges of the rocks, pulling spinners. Some of the best days we've had pulling spinners have been flat, calm, sunny days, right? And indoor bobber fishing last year using forward-facing sonar, flat, calm is good again. You know, those get out to those big boulders, there's shade there regardless. You know, this angle of the sun, but when it's like this and the fish are in 10 feet or less, it's pretty tough. You know, that was one of the questions actually. This year we asked on social media people to ask us questions. I think we covered some of this stuff just talking, you know, right now, but tactics for Leech Lake, calm and sunny. Well, you just saw it today. This is what you need to do now, right? Derek Bisping asked, what would you prefer to fish? Windy, cloudy, prefrontal midday, or flat, calm, post-frontal night fishing on Leech Lake? Anybody want to tackle that one?
Definitely not the post-frontal for me. I find the conditions, I mean, the bite usually is the toughest. Post-frontal, high pressure, at least on Leech Lake, that seems to be the toughest bite of all of them, especially in the middle of summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremiah, here's a good question for you. Are fish truly line shy, or does that better action the lighter line provides amount for more bites?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you're going to be bobber fishing, you don't want to use like straight braid to your hooks. You'd want to have some type of maybe fluorocarbon or use mono. I know last year there was one 2-day trip that I had where the fish would react to a jig. I usually have jigs in my bobber rods. They'd swim up to it, or when the line would hit the water, they'd swim away immediately. So it took me 2 days to figure out I put on the smallest plane hook I had and a small split shot and casted to the fish, and the line barely hit the water. And as that leech was falling, not more than a couple feet under the water, the walleyes came up and hit it. So yeah, I think there's truth to that, especially when the conditions like today, you know, you got flat, calm, and bright. You obviously have to go a little bit lighter.
Makes sense to me. Murph, Tommy Lee wants to know how certain techniques can benefit from a specific rod action, power, length, and why. So different rod lengths, like.
Yeah, well, like I say, obviously, well, when you're bobber fishing, it's nice to have a rod over 7 foot, longer rod. Well, you have what's the rod you use?
8.6.
8.6. Yeah. I mean that's nice. And then for jigging, I mean it's my preference. I don't like a real flimsy, a nice little soft tip, and where I can get a good hook set, especially if you're pitching a long ways away. You're gonna have that stretch in your line, and you want to be able to hit them right away.
Chuck, 218 Wannabe wants to know about crowds and fishing Leech Lake on opener. What do you think?
Usually if there's a crowd, it means something, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to fishing in crowds. Now, if you're fishing right dead center in the middle of everyone, probably not a good thing with how spooky the fish can be out here. So if you want to fish crowds of boats, use your electronics or try to stay maybe to the outside. I mean, I don't know how many times we've had it. We've all had it happen where you're fishing the outside of a crowd and you catch a couple and the crowd tends to follow you.
Yep.
And you can circle right back and fish where they were all fishing, but all that happened is the boats moved the fish another 50, 60 yards back maybe where you were fishing a half hour ago.
Like how many times have you seen where like you're sitting there and you're casting on some fish that are like 40, 50 feet away, and then you can see some like 70, 80, and another boat comes by. And also sometimes they make you like a drive. Thank you. Come closer to me.
Yeah, and of course, when the fish are biting, it doesn't seem to matter, right? Like if it's windy, nice chop,
overcast,
and everybody's drifting, the nets are out, it doesn't matter. When they're on, but I think...
A day like today, you'd probably not want to fish in a crowd of boats.
Yeah, no, we didn't really fish too close to anybody. No. At least, we got close to some people today, but it didn't seem like we caught any fish, or nobody was catching fish during that time. When we found fish by ourselves, we were able to get a few. So, last question here, I think. Silas Fishing asks, what is the biggest fish you have caught, and what is your favorite fish to catch? So 2 questions. Your biggest fish, and what is your favorite fish to catch? Chuck?
My biggest fish I've caught?
Talking just walleyes or just
in general?
Anything?
In general.
A tarpon. I don't know, 140, 150 pounds. A couple, 3 years ago.
Big giant shiner.
Yeah. Oh, looks just like a big giant shiner. Favorite fish to catch? Obviously walleyes.
Yeah.
Crappies close second.
Murph?
I caught a sailfish, but I don't know if it was long. I caught a 68-inch sturge. That's probably my biggest fish, probably. Fun. I love fishing them. And then what was it? Favorite fish is walleyes, obviously.
Murph's one of the guys that goes to the Rainy River but leaves the walleye rods at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, you have to do that, otherwise you get tempted to.
It's fun
to fish for walleyes.
Jeremiah, biggest fish?
Probably a sturgeon, but we've caught a couple of decent muskies with you. I would say walleyes are mine too. They're unpredictable and challenging, so it kind of makes you work for them sometimes, and I'm okay with that.
I would say for me, that definitely a sturgeon is my biggest. I was hoping to go tarpon fishing, but our guide's motor blew up the day after you were with him.
And I got you all pumped up.
Yeah, I was excited to do that. But sturgeon, 67-inch sturgeon a couple of years ago. That one was on 6-pound test, so that was fun. About an hour and a half of my life. But I would say I think I enjoy catching muskies more. I don't know if I enjoy grinding it out every day. And for sure guiding, there's nothing better to see somebody catch their first muskie. I mean, it's nice whenever, every trip there's a memory, walleyes, but when someone gets that first muskie, that's pretty exciting for me. So, I think we're going to wrap it up. From all of us at LOA, thanks for tuning in and watching, and everybody puts this together. Of course, our sponsors, we're all wearing Blackfish today, and it's a hot day. It may not seem like it, but 2 weeks ago or a week ago we had ice on this lake, and now we're sitting in 80 degrees, pretty hot and sweaty, and we're going to wrap it up here on Leech Lake. Like we said at the opening, Leech Lake is a phenomenal lake. The diversity, the fish biology of the lake, it's amazing. There's perch everywhere. There's crappies that are going right now. Sunfish will be showing up soon. Walleyes, of course, perch, jumbo perch. We got some nice big perch today.
Yep.
And the muskie and pike action, of course, is good too. And those other fish that we didn't mention, the smallmouth bass, the largemouth bass. It's a sportsman's mecca up here, and we're blessed to be on Leech Lake for the majority of our trips. We fish the other ones too, but one of the next lakes we're going to wrap it up on next week is not next week. Our next show is going to be up in Vermilion, and up in Vermilion we're going to have Jason Freed, our new guy Justin Cromie, and the legend Jim Ernster may even join him. We'll see how that works out, but Jason's going to be leading the show there. So from all of us here at Leech Lake, thank you very much, and we hope you all get hooked yourselves.
Leisure Outdoor Adventures would like to thank all their sponsors for their support in making the guide life happen.